Russ Riesinger. Tonight on News 3 at 11, fire races through an apartment on Savannah's south side. Tonight, several people are without a place to stay. The latest on what happened.
Tonight, several people are coming to the sad realization that they may have lost most of their belongings. That fire broke out at the Live Oak Plantation on Waters Avenue near Montgomery Crossroad just after 8 o'clock tonight, and it spread quickly. Now, a fire break did keep it from devouring the entire building, but the damage is pretty bad. I talked to one woman who thinks most of her belongings are ruined.
The upstairs is total.
Fire officials aren't sure right now just how many people are displaced, but again, they say that no one was injured.
It's traumatic stress disorder.
And tonight, some important information about PTSD and a free study going on right now if you or someone you care about might be suffering from it. But first, meet a former soldier who courageously shared his personal story with me in a News 3 special report.
I couldn't stand nobody to even get close to me. Just like me and you sitting here now, no way. Just like we're in this room now, closed door, couldn't be in here. I'm looking for a way out.
The war is long over for Nathaniel Cochran, but after serving more than 20 years in the military, he would often find his mind still stuck in the past.
My mind was still back in Iraq. The main thing was the convoy driving at night. Didn't know was the enemy up in the wood line. You know, when I even hear a helicopter or airplane come across, couldn't stand no loud noise. At home, I get up in the middle of the night, hear noise, get up, go to the door, make sure the door is locked, make sure the alarm's set. Things that was not me.
Nathaniel was showing some of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, reliving a traumatic or stressful event, avoiding situations that remind you of it, feeling numb or keyed up, easily agitated. Took him a long time to get the nerve to talk about it, but he finally opened up to a nurse during a visit to the VA clinic, a conversation he believes saved his life.
She walked in, she said, "How you doing, Mr. Cochran?" I said, "I feel like I'm a time bomb. I feel like I'm a dead, ready to explode."
The thing that sets PTSD apart is that these symptoms don't go away on their own. They last for, more than 6 months, a year. They keep persisting, and a lot of times they get worse.
Dr. Bethany Wanglin is a therapist and researcher who specializes in post-traumatic stress disorder.
With as many veterans coming back from the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts, this is a kind of a public health crisis.
There is help available. Researchers have been trying to get the word out about a new study that they're signing up veterans for right now, funded by the DOD. Nathaniel is one of the participants, and he feels as if the medication he's now on, sertraline, has helped him turn his life around.
You won't see none of those bad things. I feel like I've been washed clean.
If you hadn't gotten that help and eventually opened up, what do you think would have happened to you?
Oh, God. If I wouldn't have got it, I know I would have did something that I would have been regret today.
It's certainly good to hear that Nathaniel's feeling a lot better, Russ, and this medicine seems to be working for him.
Yeah, he says it's absolutely worked wonders for him. He was really in a bad place, and who knows what would have happened had he not gotten some help. Now, according to statistics, Nathaniel's not alone. An alarming number of veterans are being diagnosed with PTSD. Up next, more on a program that is reaching out to them and their families. Well, hurricane season is knocking on the door. While high winds are always a threat during a hurricane, inland flooding is often responsible for many of the deaths and damage that occur from these tropical storms. That makes flood insurance all the more important, even if you don't live at or near the beach. It has been a long time since the Georgia coast has been hit by a hurricane, David being the last in 1979 to cause any real problems. It's been even longer than that since a major hurricane has actually hit our coast.
With the last major hurricane being in 1898.
Think there's a reason for that, or that we're just lucky?
We've just been very lucky.
Dr. Clark Alexander has spent the past 2 decades studying our ever-changing coastline and the threat it faces from both man and Mother Nature.
Red areas are the highest vulnerability.
He says there's a precedent for big storms here, with 3 very large hurricanes between 1850 and 1899. And while we can count our blessings, luck ran out for another part of the East Coast last fall when late-blooming Superstorm Sandy ravaged the Jersey Shore.
There were a lot of examples of good and bad beach management. There were a number of areas that had built dunes in the forefront between the houses and the beach that exhibited relatively little damage, and there are areas that did not build dunes that were heavily damaged. So the necessity for having your dunes in place in places like Tybee Island was clearly demonstrated.
Alexander says there were a lot of lessons learned from Sandy and also a lot of questions raised about how close people should be building to the beach.
You know, should we be paying for someone's second home at the coast, given that we know it's a dangerous area and it's not even someone's primary residence?
They want you to start paying more insurance.
FEMA is in the process of redoing flood zones right now, making them bigger and broader. But it doesn't take a hurricane to cause flooding in many parts of Savannah.
But you can see areas that are outside the flood zone are also flooding, and that's what each of these yellow dots represent, houses that are flooded.
Some of the worst flooding we've had in recent years came during a deluge of rain in 1994, and most of the houses that were flooded weren't even in FEMA flood zones.
Flood insurance is critical. It is needed because that amount of flooding occurred and there was no hurricane. Can you imagine what would happen if we had that kind of storm with a storm surge from a Category 2 hurricane or greater?
Blakely says many people also have misconceptions about how the federal government would help out in the event of a disaster like a flood or hurricane.
That FEMA will come in and give them money to get back on their feet. Well, FEMA will come in and do that, and they will give them money. But it's money that they'll have to pay back with interest on top of their existing mortgage.
With hurricane season fast approaching, something to think about sooner rather than before it's too late.
And keep in mind that when purchasing flood insurance, your policy does not go into effect for 30 days. So again, now is the time to be doing that. Well, the South Effingham Middle School Lady Mustangs basketball team has a lot to celebrate. They recently won the Coastal Regional Championship. But during the past year, they also learned there's a lot more to life than just sports.
Come in, girl, and get the Most Valuable Player award.
This is a story about faith. That's Faith Harris. It's also about answered prayers.
We drove a school bus over to her house, and the entire team and community members joined hands in prayer for her and her family for her healing.
A little over a year ago, Faith's basketball season came to a sudden and shocking end. At first, her coach thought she might have appendicitis. It was worse. She had cancer.
Last year, a year ago, she was undergoing chemotherapy. She didn't understand why they were putting poison in her body. She was 12. So you can certainly understand her fear and ours as well.
She would have to have an ovary removed, but Faith fought through.
I missed basketball. It was pretty hard when I left. It was the worst part. The cancer wasn't that bad, but missing sports, I really hated that.
Faith is a fierce competitor, and she battled cancer head on.
After 3 rounds of chemotherapy, she was back on the court by the time this season started. And with Faith going strong, leading the team in scoring, the Lady Mustangs would win the Coastal Region Championship.
Our team and our community, we just united in prayer for Faith's healing. And then to see her come back and drop 48 points in the final 2 games of our season to lead us to a championship, that's nothing short of a miracle.
Well, I got a lot of support from my team, my whole community, my school, and everything. It really was special. I was so happy to know that everybody cared enough to come and support me through my worst times in need.
She's the one that rallied her team spirits, her coaches' spirits, and her doctors and nurses' spirits.
Well, Faith is in remission, and as you saw in those highlights, back at the top of her game. She's also a star in the classroom, where she's a straight A honor roll student. You're watching WSAV News 3 at 6. We'll be right back.